BookTube, and welcome back to my 2022 library tour. I'm doing a tour of all the books that I currently own, not only to have a visual record, but also these last few days just to have a respite from constantly refreshing the world news. And I'm down on the floor again for the bottom two shelves of this bookcase here. That's not going to be pleasant. And I'm starting to realize, as you can probably tell from the background, I'm starting to realize that the closer we get to the actual corner of the room, the harder good filming angles are going to be to come by, even by the low standards of this channel. So I don't know what I'm going to do there. I guess I'll adapt on the fly as I go along. I've got one more shelf to do, or two more shelves to do here after this one. So this camera angle will have to do. So once again, these are deep shelves. We're going to do transverse and outward stacked stuff first. So we've got a stack of mass market paperbacks, starting with the Superman story by Martin Pascoe and the great Kurt Swan, which this was, I guess, a library version because it has a sticker down there, P for Pascoe, I believe. And this originally appeared in Action Comics number 500. This is just the issue of Action Comics number 500, only with the panels broken up and made into pages like that. And as you can see from these two pages, this is an elaborate retelling of Superman's origin story. From his arrival and adoption by the kindly Kent family, all the way to the present day. The original issue, issue number 500 of Action Comics, weaves that elaborately, definitively done origin story into a plot by Lex Luthor, of course. And the thing I like about it, I don't know how to hold this up. We've got almost no room left. We're scrunched between doors and walls. The thing I like about it, the thing I wish were true about it, is that I wish this had just been DC saying this is Superman's origin, and that's it. And you don't. This is the way. This is the story. There are no other stories. There are no hidden small hood friends or enemies. There are no revamps at all. This is his origin story. That would have been great. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the definitive origin story of the classic iteration of the character. Then we have, a reinforced mass market paperback with a movie cover of Creator by Jeremy Levin. That is Peter O'Toole on the top there. That is Mariel Hemingway. I wonder if any of you will even recognize this young man. He once thought he was going to be the next De Niro, but that did not happen. This is despite the movie cover, this is the movie itself actually has some very effective moments, but it has to be only a fraction of the novel. This is a great novel, but it is gigantic and multifaceted. There's no way that you could make a movie out of it. The movie actually succeeds largely thanks to Peter O'Toole in doing a couple of things that the book doesn't do and doing them really well. But the book is a story of Dr. Harry Walper, who is trying to regrow his dead wife. Basically clone his dead wife, although this novel takes place before and looks forward to a lot of the biotechnology that we sort of take for granted now. Even though it wasn't written all that long ago, it was just written in the 70s, I believe. I ought to know the date, 1980. But another part of the book is involves Boris Lafkin and his attempts to get his revenge on Harry Walper, who may or may not be his creator and the creator of all of us. It's a very, very, very enjoyable book. And whenever I see it in a hardcover or a mass market, I grab it because it's out of print, and I firmly believe it's going to stay that way. Then we have Freedom by William Safire, this huge thing, the huge historical novel about the American Civil War that ordinarily doesn't belong in here. I have a sort of a ghetto for mass market paperbacks, and most of them are there. And this was there for the longest time, but then Scott at the Bookish Bryants decided that he was going to devote 2022 to reading huge books, and this was one of the ones that he mentioned. This was one of the ones he said that he was going to read. And as soon as I saw that video, I thought, well, it's been a long time since I read this thing. I reviewed this when it came out, but it's been a long time since I read it. Probably the whole length of time since then. When did this come out? Again, I'm going to say the 80s, 1987. Yeah. So I figured I would take it out and give it a reread, and it was on the nightstand for a while, and it got supplanted by other things, and just got as far as this shelf. I really need to either decide that I'm going to do that I'm going to read it, or put it back in the ghetto until the time when I'm properly committed to it. Maybe when Scott reads it, I'll read it. Okay, then we have an old mentor book. This is from eons ago. Actually, when did this come out? I wonder if it will even tell me. Sometimes these old mentor books don't tell you. 1952. This is The Wonderful World of Books, a delightful collection of miscellaneous pieces, lists, did you knows, that sort of thing. I have found 2 copies of this over the years at the Brattle Bookshop here in Boston, and I've grabbed them both right away. Never in a million years occurred to me that I would find a hardcover, but then just last year I did. So I'm not consulting these paperbacks quite so much. Same thing with this one. This is an old Pelican mass market paperback of Philip Ziegler's History of the Black Death. In my opinion, for a long time, people would ask me, what's the book that I should read if I can only read one book on the Black Death? And my first response would be, well, why can't you read more than one? What are you, lazy? You lazy sack of potatoes? But then my second response was this book. And it still is, even though I'm currently grappling with a new History of the Black Death that's 10 times this long. It's like 1,300 pages long. And it is brilliant in many, many ways. I don't think that will supplant this, because how can I recommend a 1,300-page book to people? I can't really do that. I can't really do that. If I'm having a hard enough time just figuring out how to review it, I certainly can't recommend it. But it is... I would be amazed if it doesn't make my year-end list, either for history or for works in translation. And then the final mass market paperback here on the outside of the shelf here is an old copy of the Viking Portable Roman Reader. The Viking Portables, to jump ahead here, this is the Viking Portable Shakespeare. As you can see, it's got a totally different cover design. It doesn't have the crappy cover art. Instead, it has a photo pertaining to the author, a little inset of the face of the author, and that's what it looks like instead. And there is a Viking Portable Roman Reader that looks just like that, instead of this weird... I don't know what this guy's wearing. I don't know what that sun symbol on there. Is he supposed to be Jor-El? Is he about to go to the Roman Forum and tell them, I tell you, Rome is doomed? I don't know. I have no idea. But this is a terrific anthology anyway, cover art notwithstanding. As most of the old Viking Portables are. I often sing their praises. And we've got one transverse book here on top of the books themselves. And this is something that we've seen just recently. This is this old Del Rey. Yeah, this old Del Rey trade paperback of John Steinbeck's book about King Arthur that has the fantasy cover art on the inside. I found just recently another trade paperback, the identical to this, and reinforced it a bit, thinking, well, it always helps to have an extra copy, and it blew apart. Like there was a bomb inside it. It blew apart. No new 2 pages together. So I wasted the effort. That was just a piece of junk. There's a problem with this trade paperback too. Probably if I seriously tried to read this, it would fall apart. Thank God I have an ebook, but the ebook doesn't have that cover art. Anyway, let's move on to the books themselves. And here we have a little bit. Okay, this is fairly recent. Does this have a pub sheet in it? We just got this last year, I think. This is Henry Scott Tuke, a big artistic retrospective on the artist Henry Scott Tuke, who had a thing. Let me get you the... he had a thing, if that's the right way to put it. He had an artistic concentration. And that was Beautiful Young Men in the Sun. He painted other things, but this is the best summary and overview of his artistic career that I've ever seen. I was happy to get it in the mail. He's a fascinating figure. And a lot of those young men went on to be lifelong friends of his and were also fascinating figures. Then we have an older book. This is much older. Let's see when this came out. Will you tell me? Will you be obedient and tell me when you came out? 1855. This is Hiawatha, the Song of Hiawatha. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, with illustrations by Harrison Fisher, who does a great job. He does spot illustrations and decorations, but he also does full-page illustrations as well. Just an absolutely lovely edition of what was once one of the most popular poems in the English-speaking world. Then we have another fairly recent, no? Oh, no. This came out in 1993, so long before we were talking to each other. This is The Origins of Christian Morality, the First 2 Centuries by Wayne Meeks. Terrific volume that I found at the Brattle, I think 2 years ago or last year. And I grabbed it right away because it was $1, and it's rare to find scholarly history for $1 out in the sale carts. And then I thought maybe I'd made the wrong choice because it's annotated in pen. And then I looked at the annotations, and it's a thinking reader. It's a careful thinking reader who annotated it. I'll take that any day. I'm not that fussy. Oh, okay, great. This does not belong here. This belongs outside. But this is One Art, a great collection of letters by the great, written by and written to the great poet Elizabeth Bishop. This is a big book and endlessly, just bottomlessly interesting. A fantastic job. I mean, you get author letters, poet letters all the time. Those volumes come and go, and they're not always all that memorable, but this is one that is. Oh my. It belongs out with the biographies, but it's a terrific volume. Okay, then from Princeton University Press from years ago, we have these two. This is Chapman's Homer, Chapman's Odyssey, and Chapman's Iliad. This is these are the very distinctive translations of George Chapman of these poems that were incredibly influential in their day and for centuries. And now I imagine most modern readers would find these unreadable. It's a very particular poetic rhythm that he adopts. You really have to be into it. Once you fall under the spell of his particular scansion, then you will be under its spell. You might even find yourself talking that way, but it's not natural. You have to work at it. Okay, then a historical novel. This is Gates of Fire, Stephen Pressfield's immensely popular book about the Battle of Thermopylae. Very enjoyable. I'm not 100% sure what it's doing in here, but it is very enjoyable. There are some historical novels in here, and this is one that I have in the mass market paperback. I have it in ebook, but I also have this pretty hardcover. Okay, this next one is Peter DeRosa. It is also a novel. It is absolutely wonderful. It's Pope Patrick, and there he is with his dog. And it is a weird novel about when an Irish cardinal is almost accidentally elevated to the papacy, and suddenly becomes a pope who says all the things we wish all popes would say. Suddenly becomes a very human, very relatable pope. Delightful. I don't know what became of this book. Largely gone, I would imagine, but so good. So good. Not just comic either. There are lots of heartfelt moments in there. Okay, then we have a work of history that I really like. Very happy to find this in paperback with a heavy-duty library-style plastic cover on it. This is Gay Daly's book, Pre-Raphaelites in Love. And it's Gay Daly's study of the Pre-Raphaelites, not just their artwork, but also the Byzantine interconnections that they had personally between each other. Delightful reading. Absolutely delightful. I say that I have a history shelf, but I don't know. This would probably stay here anyway. Actually, so would one art would probably stay in here anyway. And then we'll finish up this shelf with something that we have seen before a couple of times in a couple of different formats. This is a big trade paperback Penguin Classic Deluxe edition of the complete novels of Jane Austen. This the Karen J. Fowler introduction, this lovely understated cover, just delightful, absolutely delightful. You've got the French flaps and the deckled edges. It's delightful, but I have 2 copies of this volume, and we saw, what did we see? Yeah, this thing. Just yesterday, we saw this, which is the complete volumes, the complete novels of Jane Austen. And of course, I have them all on ebook, and there are many more complete Jane Austens to come here in this room. So this is a little bit of overkill, especially when shelf space in here is not infinite. It's kind of at a premium. I can always rearrange things, but I really should get rid of doubles like that. I will work on that when this is over. When we finish with this room, I will pause my library tour and deal with this room. Then we'll move on to the next room. So that's it. That is this shelf for the library tour. I'm going to wrap this up for now and somehow try to get up off the floor. But I will see you soon. Thank you, BookTube.